Today's wrestling news, what is going on with Karrion Kross? More on WWE's strategy against AEW. Samoa Joe was injured filming Twisted Metal, and we've got a backstage update on Liv Morgan's injury as well. Are you ready? Are you ready for the news time? My name is Phil Chambers. I'm not joined by Gareth because he was out drinking last night and is a bit hungover. So straight up, Karrion Kross, what the hell is going on? There's been obviously a lot of talk about what him and Scarlett since he left WWE on August 10th when their contract expired. Now, there's obviously been a lot of noise about what is really going on there, but Dave Meltzer has a little bit of an update about it in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and then I'm going to kind of get to everything else that's been out there since to let you make your own mind up about what is exactly going on here. So, Meltzer, Wrestling Observer newsletter, he was talking about everything that he's heard from WWE themselves, and Karrion Kross kind of insist that this is legitimate. But there's other people that think while the contracts may have truly expired, well, some don't believe it's entirely accurate to say he's just leaving the company and it isn't some kind of work. So Meltzer spoke to an indie promoter who is speaking about how high the prices him and Scarlett are charging for appearances are, saying that they weren't buying any of this because of how high those prices were. He also talks about WWE still selling merch, which isn't on its own completely unusual. Obviously, they still have a bunch of merch to get rid of, but what they usually do is mark it as clearance and discount it, and they haven't done that with Karrion Kross and Scarlett stuff yet. Other sources within WWE apparently say that they aren't sure if it's legitimate or not, but they do believe that they will be brought back either way. Now, Meltzer was also speaking of things like the recent Seth Rollins fake injury angle that he did for the Money in the Bank cash-in, and how Meltzer believes that WWE are keeping some storylines kind of very much under lock and key, with only a select few in the loop, to just kind of keep these things quiet and keep people guessing, which is kind of what's leading to all the speculation surrounding Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Now, Kross himself said that WWE only offered him this new deal days before his last one expired, and it was only for him, not for Scarlett, and they also put a time limit of 24 hours for him to sign it, and then they ended up rescinding that offer in the end. Karrion Kross apparently asked for additional information on how the company came to the figure that they offered him, and he stated that they declined to elaborate and then later rescinded the initial offer. Now, since they have become free agents, the couple have announced a few convention appearances and things like that, but they haven't revealed any wrestling bookings as of yet, which obviously they would be perfectly in their rights to if their contracts had expired. There's no non-compete or anything like that when a contract just expires. Now, other things like on SmackDown last night, there were "We Want Kross" chants in the audience when Sami Zayn was in the ring. Obviously, Sami Zayn was his last match at SummerSlam. Kross just responded to that on Twitter, just saying, "I hear you." But he's also been on the Ariel Helwani's show, and he was talking about the chants that were on the SummerSlam post show back then. It was more "We Want Kross" chants, and it was while Triple H was there. And then Triple H kind of played it out that they were for Brock and not for Karrion Kross. He said, "You want Brock, you've got him." So Karrion Kross was asked about that on the Ariel Helwani show, and he said, "When I did see it, I laughed because he could have misheard it, but then he was very dry. He has a very dry sense of humor, and I thought there was a chance maybe he could have just been joking around. I was very flattered that after the show, a show that he's not even on, everyone is chanting. That was awesome. And then the night before the show's over, they were doing it on both nights, and I thought that was really cool. There's incredible people that have been in the business that aren't received like that from the crowd, and stuff like that I will never forget for the rest of my life." Now, he's also been speaking on the Ariel Helwani show about a bunch of other things. Obviously, he said that he doesn't have an agent, so in the contract talks he represented himself, and he spoke to a representative and not to Triple H directly. Last time when he rejoined the company, he dealt with Triple H directly in all of the contract talks, but that wasn't the way this time. He's not personally reached out to Triple H since then, apparently, but they did speak earlier in the year, and the response was to kind of add a point man in there instead of keeping the dialogue between Triple H and Karrion Kross. So there was a kind of middleman that Karrion Kross had to go through. Karrion elaborated on this a little bit just by saying, "He knows that I want to talk, he knows what I want to do, he knows. Now, Kross was also speaking about Scarlett's contract, specifically on the Ariel Helwani podcast, this is still, and he says that there was no offer to her. I was told at one point, because I did inquire, of course, after we deal with you, we'll deal with her, and he didn't see why they couldn't have just done things the way they did before, where they do deals together. He says the goal has always been to be with WWE. My wife and I still want to be with WWE. I'm at the table for conversations. I did not step out of the conversation. We still want to be there. We still want to work it out. So that's kind of everything that's going on with Karrion Kross at the minute and his contract situation. I guess let me know down in the comments, do you think it's a work? Do you think it's a shoot? Is this, are they going to re-sign him, or is he going to go somewhere else, potentially like TNA, and work his way back in that way? Like, it's all kind of up in the air as to what exactly this is right now, but it's like we're just not getting, I mean, obviously the wrestling world is very gossipy, and things like the Seth Rollins injury angle is only going to make people question these things more, like the R-Truth thing as well. Like, he was like let go and then brought back like a week later. So it's all of these things are kind of adding to this air of sort of mystery surrounding these kind of things, but you never really get to the truth of it until much later, when he just either doesn't return to WWE for ages and you're like, oh yeah, it was right, or he does return in a couple of weeks and you're like, there you go, it was a work. So let me know down in the comments below, what do you think is going on with this, and what do you want to see Karrion Kross do? Do you want to see him back in WWE, or do you want to see him head out elsewhere? Let me know. So moving over to WWE's strategy against AEW. Now, there's obviously been a lot of counter-programming going on with AEW and WWE, and WWE basically wanting to dominate the conversation of wrestling weekends when AEW has big shows. Obviously, they put like 3 or 4, it was 4 if you include SmackDown, I guess, shows over the weekend of AEW All In, with one of them going like directly afterwards to try and dominate that conversation on social media straight away afterwards. Well, the rumours are that WWE intends to run a premium live event against AEW All Out just next month, which is obviously more direct counter-programming. But there's also rumours of them putting the Saturday Night's main event that is going to have John Cena's last match on head-to-head with AEW World's End as well. Now, the Wrestling Observer newsletter and Dave Meltzer has a little bit of an update on both of these things. He says that the PLE for September the 20th would be in Indianapolis and would feature John Cena versus Brock Lesnar as the key match for it, and that would be the same night as All Out, which is going to be in Toronto. Now, there is potential for AEW to kind of move All Out a little bit earlier, do like an afternoon slot to try and not go directly head to head with the WWE show. But the longer it takes WWE to announce this, the harder that is for AEW to sort of counter it and move the show, because it's just closer and closer to the date, and it's logistics-wise makes it much, much harder. Now, it's not clear exactly how much WWE running head-to-head with AEW would cost AEW, but Meltzer puts out a figure of if they cost them 20,000 buys, that would result in a near $600,000 loss for AEW. Now, that sounds like a lot, but when you're considering the numbers that these companies are working with, AEW's TV rights deal brings them in $180 million. So it's definitely not the end of the world for AEW, but it's also, like, it's still a big chunk of money for the sort of revenue from that one show. Now, Meltzer says it does show that Nick Khan and Paul Levesque care a lot more about AEW than Vince McMahon ever did, and Vince wanted them out of business pretty badly right from the start. But it is true that a lot of this kind of programming stuff has come in since it's been TKO and Nick Khan and Triple H in charge. Now, the Saturday Night's main event back later on in the year that would be going up against World's End. The problem with them moving that they're finding right now is that if they move it to that same day, they will end up with a lot more competition. And there is an NFL game scheduled to stream exclusively on Peacock at the same time, which might mean that NBC just don't want to move Saturday Night's main event at all. So that's why that one's kind of not been announced yet, and they're kind of waiting to see whether they can actually do that. It also doesn't mean that they can't just create an NXT premium live event or whatever to go up against it. They've done that before, just kind of pulled one out their ass to go up against AEW so they have something. But the one for next month is like, it's a weird one, because the longer WWE take to announce it means the less chance AEW have to move it, but also a lot less time for WWE to actually sell tickets to the event. So we're gonna have to wait and see whether these happen. It's 2 big matches, with John Cena's last match and John Cena versus Brock Lesnar, of course, after the return at SummerSlam. So they've got the potential of sort of, taking over the sort of conversation for the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see whether they actually do it. But again, let us know down in the comments below, what do you think of all of this counter programming stuff? WWE seems to be going mad with it recently. But moving over to Samoa Joe, he returned to wrestling on Dynamite on Wednesday. He reunited with the Ops to beat La Faction Ingobernable, but he was quite limited in the match. They went on to win, obviously, but he didn't really do that much. Well, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter again has reported that he has multiple injuries that he is recovering from. He's working through a sort of lingering shoulder injury, but the other one is he fractured his ankle whilst filming Twisted Metal. Now, PW Insider have more information from this. They have a quote from Samoa Joe to give more details about this, and he was saying that he's doing his own stunts in the show, but Samoa Joe says, "Normally, I would say the ring is always a much more precarious place to be in, but halfway through the season, I fractured my ankle. Nothing crazy. We had done a series of pretty crazy driving stunts and some dangerous things here and there. Then it was just parking and I had to hop out the back on some really busted up asphalt. I turned my ankle and spent the rest of the season taping it up and limping through it. Twisted Metal is an incredibly physical fighting scenes, driving scenes. Anytime that car is driving, you see me in it. It's me. It's a demanding role, but spending enough time in the ring as I have, it's no new territory." So, an unfortunate injury from Samoa Joe whilst filming Twisted Metal, and it means he's just got lingering things that he's going to have to work through within this sort of comeback into wrestling. So it remains to be seen how long the recovery will take, but I expect him to be sort of limited in the ring like he was on Wednesday until he's fully recovered at least. But yeah, just best wishes to Samoa Joe. I hope he's best on his injury recovery, and yeah, we just want to see him get back to being the Samoa Joe we all know and love in ring. But speaking of injuries, we've got a backstage update on Liv Morgan. She's been out for nearly 2 months with a separated shoulder when she was wrestling Kairi Sane on Raw. It looked nasty, but she has had to go on and have surgery since then. But PWI Elite, Pro Wrestling Insider Elite, have an update on her and her injury status. Now, WWE say that they are hopeful for a return in early 2026, assuming her recovery stays on schedule. So it's much longer than initially thought, but that's because she then had to go and have the surgery and things on top of it. So early 2026 sounds very much like a Royal Rumble return potential, at least in time for WrestleMania, which would be good because Liv Morgan was on a hell of a run before she was taken out with this injury. And obviously we've got all the continuing storyline with the Judgment Day and everything that's going on there that we kind of need Liv Morgan to slot back into at some point to figure it all out. So yeah, that's another one where it's just best wishes go out to Liv Morgan. Can't wait to see her back in the ring where she belongs. She was on a tear before this, putting on some great stuff, great matches, great storylines, and yeah, she deserves to be back in the wrestling ring. So hopefully a Royal Rumble would be a very, very nice place for her to return to, but at the very least it seems like we'll get her for a WrestleMania next year in Las Vegas. So can't wait for that, and good luck in your recovery, Liv Morgan. But that is it. Thank you very much for joining me. You can follow me over on Instagram and Twitter at Fill My Chambers. Watch the video that's on the screen right now to continue watching YouTube videos. That's what you do. But most importantly, have yourselves a bloody good day.